Hi everyone, welcome back to Insight Data Academy. This is our second lesson in our select and where clauses. In our last lesson, we discussed about how to use some functions like the string functions, numerical functions, date and time, and aggregate function with select and where clauses. However, in the second part of this lesson, we'll be discussing about the group by clause. First of all, what do we mean by the group by clause? As it implies, the purpose of group by clause is to collect rows into group or buckets and summarize the rows within the group. Take for instance, if you have a table like this, where you have the product ID, the category, and the price. Take for instance, you are wishing to know the total price per category of the products being sold in this table. We can simply group this category into two buckets, like the beauty bucket and the sports bucket, because these two are the unique entries that we have in our category feed. So let's take for instance, we want to know the total price of the product being sold per category using the beauty and sports bucket. This is our first bucket over here, that is the beauty bucket. Let's call this bucket 1. And this other one over here, the sports bucket, let's call this bucket 2. The group by collects every rows over here, row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. It grouped them into buckets. Here we're having only two buckets, that is the bucket 1 and bucket 2. This first row will belong to the first bucket, that is the beauty bucket. Why the second row will belong to the second bucket? Why this third row will belong to the first bucket? Because it's as in the beauty bucket. Why this last one over here also belongs to 2 as in bucket 2. So we have 2 rows in bucket 1 and another 2 rows in bucket 2. Group by groups each rows inside a bucket. Let's say this is our first bucket over here. For this product ID with 2000 will be here in this first bucket over here. Likewise, the products with like beauty also with product ID 2002 will also be in one bucket. The other one also over here, that is the sports, which has a product ID 2001, the first row in that category. Likewise, the last row, which is product 2003, that has the product ID 2003, will also be in another bucket. Let's call this bucket 2. So the group by statement will group each and every row into groups. Then afterward, it summarizes them. It summarizes the rows within the group, depending on the aggregate function we want to use. Let's take, for instance, as we said earlier on, take for instance, we want to know the total price of products being sold per category in this our small table over here. The price here, that is the first price of this row with 2000 product ID 2000 is 20. That is 20 plus the other one, which is 2002, is 15. Let's say we want to know the sum, that is the total price of the product being sold per category. The sum of this will give 35, right? So that's the summary. It summarizes and gives back only a single result, a single row result. Take for instance the other one also, that is the product as in the sports category. We are willing to summarize the total price of sports products being sold. Sports products, the first entry here is 10. So that will be, let's say 10 plus the second one over here, which is 20. We'll add them, we sum them up, and this gives the total of 35. So our new table now will be something like this. After performing the group by as in statements, it will be something like this. We'll have, let's say, the category, which includes the beauty column and the sports category. So we'll have the final price, let's say the sum of the price or the total price to say. The first one here is 35, while the second one here is 30. That's a function of group by. Group by clause is there to summarize, is there to collect rows that are of the same type into a group, or you can call it buckets, and summarize them using some aggregate function like sum. As we illustrated here, we used the sum aggregate function here to find the total price of the products being sold per category. We can also use other aggregate functions as we've discussed in our last class. We can also use the counts. You can also use the sum, the average, max, mean, and the rest. So those are those basic functions that we do use with. Those are those basic aggregate functions we do use with our group by. So let us head on to our MySQL workbench and implement how to use group by. Here is our workbench. Let's take, for instance, we want to know the total price of goods or of products being sold per category in our products table. Let's see how our product table looks like. Let's select everything from our products table. And let's see what we have. Control Enter. As you can see here in our products table, we have several fields like the product ID, the product name, category, subcategory, prices, and the likes. Take, for instance, we are willing to know the total amounts we made from each category of our products. We can simply leverage the group by clauses in there to do that for us. Let's say select. I'm coming back to display those column in which we would like to select. Select, let's say from products. Then let's group it by. We are grouping by the category this time around. That is based on category, right? Then we want to display the category and likewise the total price of the total price of the products being sold in each category. So when we run this query, let's run this and see what we have. Control Enter. All right, as you can see here, the price of the category in each product, like the beauty, we have about 6,952, sports 7,914, and the rest. We can simply rename this as total price. As you can see here. Another good thing about group by clause is that you have to follow some basic rule so as not to have any error. There are two basic rules that you have to follow whenever you are using group by clause. The first rule over here, whenever you are using your group by, is that every column in the select clause or the select statement must either be in the group by clause or be inside an aggregate function. What does this mean? Let's see from this our example that we illustrated earlier on. Following the first rule, that the column must be in the group by clause, that is the feed name must be in the group by clause, or it must be wrapped inside an aggregate function, or wrapped inside an aggregate function. From this query over here, the group by, the select statement contains two fields, which is the category and the price, right? This category over here is being stated immediately after this group by clause over here. We want to display it, but we've already stated it here that we are grouping by category of the products, and it's been selected here, is here already. And price, as you can see, price is not in the group by clause. However, we wrapped it up in in an aggregate function, that is sum. If you don't obey this particular rule, you will encounter some error. Take, for instance, we want to display some fields that are not here. Let's say, for instance, from our products table, let's see some field from our product table, like the product's name, for instance. Let's include it in the select clause. Product name, okay, then category, comma. As you can see, this product's name over here is not indicated in either the group by category and is not wrapped in any of the aggregation function we know. It's just single. It's been single like that in the select statement or in the select clause will throw an error. Let's run this and see what we have. Control Enter. Oops, as expected, right? As you can see, this is our query here complained of. It says expression error code 10555 expression blah 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 like that. Select list is not in group by clause. It's obvious. Product name, we did not specify it here. It's not being specified like something like this here. It's not specified, right? Okay. Likewise, the error also it says group by clause and contain non-aggregated column. In the select statement over here, we did not wrap this column, this product name, in any aggregated function like count, sum, average, maximum, minimum, and the rest. Let's take, for instance, let's say we simply want to just count the number of products over here. Let's use count with this product name and see whether we'll have an error or not. We wrap this inside this place, and let me clean this up. Then rerun this, Control Enter. All right, as you can see, we encountered no error, just because this product's name here, over here, let me adjust this. This product name over here, it was not specified that as in immediately after the group by clause, yeah, but it was wrapped inside an aggregate function in our select clause. And using that, doing that, we had no issue with the displaying, even though this doesn't make much sense. But just to illustrate the rule that whenever you are using a group by statement in MySQL, you have to, is either the column or the field must either be in the group by clause. You will state it capitally like that, as in you state it boldly in the group by clause, or you should wrap it inside what? An aggregate function. Let's take, for instance, another way of doing this. Instead of us wrapping this in an aggregate function, we can also specify. Let's say we are trying to group by, let's take a concrete example this time around. Let's look at the products table, Control Enter. Let's say we are deciding to group our products with respect to the product's name and the category they belong. We want to know the total sum of the products that is made based on the product's name and the category. We can simply just do that by illustrating that here. Let me clear this. That will be grouped by the category and the product's name. We are grouping by the category and the product's name. That gives us some detailed analysis or detailed insights. Instead of us just finding the total price per category, we are finding both the total price per category and per product itself. So when I run this, I won't encounter any error, just because the product name itself has been stated here in the group by clause. So Control Enter. All right, as you can see, this total price over here is based on both category and the product name. If that is clear, let's go to the second rule of group by. In the group by, the second rule there is that each groups gives or return one result row. That's why it's called slicing and rolling clause, that is the group by clause. After slicing each rows into a bucket, that is grouping them into several groups that they belongs to, it will also roll them up, that is, it will aggregate them using some aggregation function. Then the results will result into only single row. So let's take, for instance, let me just group only by a single field here. Control Enter. All right. As you can see here, we only have about how many unique category? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 5 of them. So you won't find another beauty over here again. Likewise, you won't find another sports or another home, electronics, like that. We only grouped by the category. So that's the beauty of group by clauses. Group by clauses is very important, especially when you need a detailed analysis. And in this lesson, we discussed about some of the rules, some of the basic rules for group by. Column, any field that you are willing to group by should be indicated either in the group by clause or should be wrapped in an aggregation function in the price as in the select clause. Failing to obey one of these rules, your query will throw an error. So that's that about group by. In our next class, we'll be discussing about how to use having clause with the group by clause. Having clause is just like another where clause, even though they are quite different. We use having with group by statements. Before going, I would like to brush through the order of hierarchy in which MySQL do execute all these as in clauses. In terms of execution, in order of execution, MySQL sees it from this perspective. Take for instance, you want to analyze this query. MySQL sees it from this perspective. From the from clause will be firstly selected. That is the meaning of from. That is, you should find the table in our database. From product, that is, you are telling MySQL engine to find this particular table in our MySQL Launchpad database. From products, afterward, if there is where in our clause, as in our query, it will also execute after that. In order of execution, we have where, if it's, as in if it's stated, but in this our query, it's not. So we can just simply cancel that. That is, we have the from products. Then afterward, group by, that is, you should form some group. Group by, here we are grouping by category. We are simply telling MySQL to divide all the rows in our products table based on the unique category in them. Then afterward, if there's having also, we also have the having clause, which as in the having is just a conditional filtering the group by clause. So a conditional clause used to filter as in the group by statements. So afterward, we have the order by. So the order by, the having will be discussed in our next lesson. So in order of selection, it starts from, then followed by where, if it is as in available in the query. That is, after this we have the where, then we have the group by, then whenever, if we have having also in our query, having also as in will be filter. Then after that, afterward, then we have the order by. Then afterward, it's not select. It select is just like you print all the results, as in the results out. That is, you display the results in which you need. That is that about group by statements. Thank you guys for watching this video. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are yet to do so. See you in the next lesson. Thanks.